let's talk about these recent Fallout leaks. Reportedly, multiple new Fallout games are in development right now, including Fallout 5, which was apparently just greenlit. Or maybe not. As exciting as this news has been, almost immediately we get some pushback from other sources. So who should we believe here? What's actually going on with Fallout? And I've seen the comments. JuiceHead yaps too much. So if you don't care about all of these details and just kind of want my quick take, timestamps below. Basically, all of this recent Fallout news has stemmed from the mass layoffs at Microsoft. 9,000 people were laid off, including tons from Xbox. This dominated online discourse, and the discussion about the future of Xbox and their IPs made its way onto the Friends Per Second podcast, where Jordan Midler, a reporter at the Video Game Chronicle, did say,
Fallout is the big one. I cannot believe that they didn't immediately start work on a Fallout 5, because Todd's not going to make it. Todd's not going to make it, man. He's not going to make the game. He will make it to that point of life, hopefully, at the time of recording. But when he's done with the next Elder Scrolls, I can fully see him being like, okay, I'm done. I'm an older guy now. They should. Yeah. There are multiple Fallout projects in development, including, as far as I'm aware, that one you're all wanting. But it's not far enough along to say anything that is like, you're going to be playing this game anytime soon. Fallout 5 should have been day one. Okay, we own these motherfuckers now. Let's get a game that says Fallout 5 on it out on the shelves. And they didn't bother.
There's a lot to unpack there, but the big reveal is multiple new Fallout games are on the way, including the big one. There's been a lot of interpretations as to what that actually means, but to me, the big one is New Vegas 2, and even shortly thereafter, Jordan Midler says that.
Anyway, New Vegas 2 coming soon.
I do think he was partly joking there, but the one we're all wanting is New Vegas 2. This has dominated headlines for years now, but originally it was more of just a moniker to reflect a new Obsidian Fallout game. Like when I say New Vegas 2, I don't literally mean a direct sequel to Fallout New Vegas. And we've heard lots of rumors around Obsidian and Fallout. The head of Obsidian wants to work on Fallout before they retire. Supposedly talks of Obsidian and Fallout happened internally. Jordan Midler literally reported on this leak back in 2022. Josh Sawyer has been saying for years that he is interested in working on Fallout again. And late last year, the original lead writer on Fallout New Vegas took a creative director job at Obsidian. He is saying it's not New Vegas 2, but it is an opportunity that he straight up couldn't resist. And a potential Obsidian Fallout wouldn't even be all we're getting, as reportedly there are multiple Fallout games in the works right now. So perhaps we have a situation where a Fallout 3 remaster, New Vegas 2, and then Fallout 5 are all coming, but apparently Fallout 5's not coming from Todd Howard. Jordan Midler saying Todd Howard isn't going to do Fallout 5 seemed more like speculation on his side. It's seemingly based off the fact that he thinks Todd Howard is done after The Elder Scrolls 6. But in my last video, I did find something interesting around this. Back in 2022, Todd Howard said Fallout 5 is next after The Elder Scrolls 6.
Elder Scrolls 6 is in pre-production, and, you know, we're going to be doing Fallout 5 after that. So our slate's pretty full going forward.
And a lot of the articles you could find out there right now do reference this quote from 2022. But in 2023, Todd Howard clarified.
And then last year when we talked, you said, yep, Fallout 5, I want to do that, that'll be next.
That was more of like a general, it will clearly be after Elder Scrolls 6 at some point.
Okay,
That's like, let me clarify that one.
And even in 2024, when asked again, he doesn't specify things one way or another, which is weird. We all assume Fallout 5's after The Elder Scrolls 6, so why not say it? During the Mr. Matty Plays interview last year, Todd Howard also said they're not in a rush to get the next Fallout game out sooner.
You know, we don't feel like we need to rush any of that. You know, right now, the Fallout TV show fills a certain niche in terms of the franchise and storytelling. Totally get the desire for a new kind of mainline single-player game. I don't think it's bad for people to miss things.
We've known The Elder Scrolls 6 was next up for Bethesda for almost a decade. We actually knew about The Elder Scrolls 6 before we knew about Fallout 76. So the caginess around Fallout 5 being Bethesda Game Studios' next game does make me wonder if Jordan Midler was onto something here. Maybe Fallout 5 isn't coming from Bethesda Game Studios, or at the very least, it isn't coming next from them. But maybe Obsidian's not making a Fallout game either. Because then Chris Avellone responded to this rumor on Twitter saying, no, but possibly New Vegas headline is used so often to generate clicks for media sites to the point it's mostly noise by now. By the way, I don't mean the above meanly, it's just over the years I've seen the same claim by media so many times. But hey, hey, I could be wrong, but from what I've heard, if it's happening, it ain't Obsidian. I know the rundown of their upcoming titles and franchises. So Chris Avellone saying that if there's a new Fallout game, it's not going to be Obsidian who's making it, which does seem to go against what New Vegas 2 take from Jordan Midler, assuming he actually meant New Vegas 2. He never technically clarifies that. And this one's complicated. I don't really know if we should believe Chris Avellone here, because on one hand, he is the co-founder of Obsidian. He worked on many of their most popular games, but also left the company 10 years ago and on bad terms. He later went on to say how Obsidian silenced him and tried to force him to never work on RPGs again. But then there was a thread where another former Obsidian employee pushed back against some of what Chris Avellone was saying. The whole situation is messy, but what we do know is Chris Avellone does not like Obsidian management, or the head of Obsidian right now, who is the other co-founder of the studio and current studio head. After news came out in 2018 that Microsoft was buying Obsidian, Avellone said, "Good devs, terrible management. Hire the devs, fire the shaft at the top." So Chris Avellone says no Obsidian Fallout game, and actually he isn't the only one to say that. Jeff Grubb was the original leak that Obsidian and New Vegas 2 talks were starting to happen internally at Microsoft. Last year, on a podcast with Jeff Grubb, Lex Luddy, another gaming journalist, corroborated that talks about a New Vegas 2 did in fact happen in 2022. But reportedly, there is currently no Fallout in development, and it is very unlikely that Obsidian are going to be the people to make the next Fallout. Apparently, this wasn't just a Bethesda thing. Like, hey, we don't want someone else making this game. It was also partly Obsidian going, this would be a huge scale for us that we have backed away from. And well, that would be surprising, because just over a bit before this quote, the head of Obsidian did say publicly he wants to make a Fallout game before he retires. But at the same time, Obsidian kinda backed away from larger scale games with Avowed. Avowed began as a huge open world multiplayer Skyrim, but by release, the game ended up rebooted twice with smaller scale open zones because that's what worked in the Outer Worlds. And even some of the other sources we talk about in this video, like Jez Corden, have said they haven't heard any concrete leaks on Obsidian making a Fallout game. But speaking of, Jez Corden also weighed in, claiming that as a result of all of this, Fallout 5 was fully greenlit.
What I do know is that Fallout 5 is fully greenlit now.
Which again feels like very notable news. Fallout 5 wasn't greenlit already? That just happened? I don't personally think I could do Xbox's job, but definitely seems like they're doing a bad job. How is this stuff just happening now? And Jez Corden does expand on all of this, relating it to the recently canceled ZeniMax Online Studios MMO.
From what I heard, it was a case of, do we want to sink a ton of money into getting this to a point where it can compete with the established players on the market? Or do we want to allocate that investment towards making Fallout 5? The program to expand Fallout in general, that's where they've decided to make the investments.
And honestly, that does make a bit of sense. It pretty closely aligns to the internal memo that Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, sent out after the layoffs went live. To position gaming for enduring success and allow us to focus on strategic growth areas, we will end or decrease work in certain areas of the business and follow Microsoft's lead in removing layers of management to increase agility and effectiveness. But almost immediately, this got debunked, at least sort of. In a thread on Reset Era discussing Jez's comments, Jason Schreier weighed in, saying, Xbox didn't lay off thousands of people so they can move those resources to new projects. They laid off thousands of people to cut their overall fiscal year budget. Many people immediately came at Jez after this, but I don't really view these as contradictory. Jez is saying they didn't want to spend the money to get Blackbird to release, and instead will budget towards surefire things, such as more Fallout games, while Jason is saying they didn't lay off a bunch of people to move those people to new projects, it was to cut overall costs. Which, yeah, Xbox as a whole is shrinking now. They're focusing more on what has worked in the past. The days of fully original and experimental games are likely behind us now. Instead, we're going to see a lot more sequels and surefire IPs. Which, if you're a Fallout fan, seemingly means more Fallout games. It seems like as a part of the strategy, more Fallout games are coming, at least that's what these insiders are leaking. In a Fallout podcast, Jez did clarify things even further, saying how he now has more sources, and after the all-hands-on meeting at Microsoft, someone literally asked why Blackbird was cancelled, and the response was to make strategic bets in other areas. But apparently at this meeting, there was no explicit mention of Fallout or Fallout 5, but yeah, Fallout is one of the most valuable IPs at Microsoft right now. It makes sense for them to devote more resources to this area. So to summarize all of this, insiders believe that Xbox is shifting strategy. For whatever reason, even though they've owned Fallout since 2021, they actually weren't working on Fallout games this whole time. But now they are, because Xbox is focusing on the things they think will sell well. well. But this does likely mean these new Fallout games are still years away. It's only beginning development now. And rumors are multiple games are now in development. Fallout 5 is greenlit, but more games beyond that are coming. But there are doubts that Bethesda is working on this game, and people have mixed opinions on whether Obsidian is involved or not. So who's making this new Fallout game, and how many games are we even getting? The easy and expected one is Fallout 3 Remastered. I've heard this directly from a source that, yeah, it's real, it's coming, and it's on this officially leaked roadmap, but it's likely years away. On this roadmap, it is 2 years after Oblivion Remastered, so I wouldn't expect this one till around 2027. Beyond that, when you start looking out at who makes sense to make the next Fallout game if we're not immediately going to Bethesda Game Studios, Obsidian really makes the most sense. But perhaps they aren't doing it and have something else up their sleeve? Some kind of unannounced project did pop up at Obsidian back in mid-2024, but with so many people saying now that they aren't working on Fallout, or they haven't heard they're working on Fallout, I just can't imagine they're actually a year deep on a Fallout game, so either way, this is kind of bad news. Either there is no Obsidian Fallout game on the way, or based off these leaks, Obsidian Entertainment is only just starting work on a Fallout game, so we're likely looking at 4+ years before we hear or can play this thing. The other big name to pop out here is Brian Fargo, the head of inXile Entertainment, and things could get really unique here. Brian Fargo also led Interplay, which made Fallout 1, 2, and inXile made Wasteland 3, which is heavily inspired by those older Fallout games, but of course it's top down. Back in 2021, both Spunger on Reset Era, a guy to leak a bunch of Avowed stuff, as well as the Xbox YouTuber Dealer Gaming, claimed that inXile was on an Unreal Engine 5 Fallout project. Dealer Gaming doesn't even make videos anymore, and it doesn't seem like there was a secret Fallout project in the works this entire time, but inXile also had a former game designer on LinkedIn say they were doing research and setting development for an upcoming game based on an established IP, so I would say it's really unlikely they're working on something Fallout, but there could be clues. There's been leaks that they're working on Fallout in the past, I just don't personally believe them. A modern remake of Fallout 1 or 2 could be really cool, and inXile would be the perfect company to do that. A lot of the design choices from Wasteland 3 could make a lot of sense in a modern take on Fallout. That game's really good if you haven't played it. As well as the success of Baldur's Gate 3 provides a really nice blueprint for inXile to succeed here. But at the same time, I don't see how all of these leaks say there are no Fallout games anytime soon if this one's secretly been in development since 2021. That's kind of the big issue we keep coming up against here. We all want a Fallout game out soon, but it really seems like Bethesda and Xbox just dropped the ball here. There's nothing in the works that's ready to release anytime soon. There is a weird situation with the ZeniMax Online Studios devs. Their game got canceled, that's Blackbird, but since they formed a union and that union hasn't finished negotiating severance packages with Microsoft before all of these layoffs started, none of those people have been laid off yet. There's some hope that something happens here. I've seen speculation that a ZeniMax Online Studios Fallout project could come out of all of this. They obviously already work on the Elder Scrolls Online, so perhaps a new Fallout could be in their wheelhouse. But to be frank, I think most of these people will sadly just lose their jobs. It just hasn't happened yet. Speaking to some people in the know, the overall sentiment I've heard from Xbox/Bethesda is that this isn't the end of layoffs. As bad as things are right now, it seems like more could be coming. If Bethesda is working on Fallout 5, we would hopefully get some kind of confirmation of this in an interview here relatively soon. They would likely start working on a Fallout 5 right around now. As the Elder Scrolls 6 moves further and further into production, concept and pre-production work on Fallout 5 would typically be beginning around now. One direction this could go that would really excite me is Bethesda Game Studios Austin being built out into a proper Fallout studio, or maybe just a totally new studio within Bethesda Game Studios being established to work on Fallout. Bethesda Game Studios Santa Barbara as the new Fallout-focused studio feels like such a good way to keep this IP active long-term. It of course doesn't mean good news in the short term, we still are years away from that next game, but hopefully it would mean the 2030s don't have crazy gaps between game releases. But as Jason Schreier said, they didn't fire a bunch of people to just hire a bunch of people. And honestly, one of the big things to pop into my head after hearing all of these news, listening to all of these leaks, is more Fallout mobile games. There is still that Fallout Shelter Online. It's an Asian exclusive release, but does have expanded features over the original. And back in 2018, Todd Howard said he wanted Bethesda Game Studios to always be working on a mobile game. That's a quick way to make some Fallout money right now. And honestly, that's just the sort of thing I'm expecting here. I've seen quite a few fans cheer on this recent news. That Blackbird being canceled and more resources being allocated towards Fallout 5 is a great thing. And while I do totally understand that sentiment, just in general, a giant company cutting off original IPs to focus on money-making IPs doesn't often can lead to better content. And one of the other rumors I want to mention just at the end of this one is that all of this leaking is really just happening to soften some of the layoff news. Fallout is of course one of the biggest IPs at Xbox, and people are begging for more games here. Some fans think this is more of an orchestrated leak to raise public morale around Xbox, that yeah, there are layoffs, but hey, more Fallout's on the way, so everything's okay. That doesn't necessarily make the information untrue, but who knows? It is interesting to me how at the all-hands-on internal meeting, there was no mention of Fallout apparently, but at the same time, multiple Fallout games are coming, but no developers have been mentioned anywhere. So there's a ton of new content on the horizon, but nobody knows who's making any of it right now. I don't know, I'm not super conspiratorial with this stuff, but it does kind of just feel like a bunch of hot air. Like even tomorrow, if we get 4 new Fallout games greenlit, each with $100 to $200 million budget, those games are all so far away that it's really hard to get excited about any of that. And it does make me wonder, why are we hearing about all these games right now? Those are my thoughts though. I'd love to hear from all of you in the comments below, and if you are interested in more, check out this video.